Yo, welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, a podcast where I have the pleasure of talking with entrepreneurs and real estate investors alike. Today, I have a powerhouse in business. He's been a serial entrepreneur pretty much his entire life, working in many different avenues from real estate to medical transportation. And he's currently focused on mergers and acquisitions, which right over my head. So I'm excited to dive into that. He's also a father of two, 15 and 18, I think he was. So they're like heading into adulthood right now. So good for you, brother. I've got 3 under 4 currently. So my hands are full. Without further ado, let's welcome Joshua Wilson to the stage. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, man, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. I know with all that you're doing, taking time out of your day to come chat with somebody who doesn't even really know what mergers and acquisitions is, um, it's time consuming. So I appreciate you taking time out of the busy day to be here with us. And I know that you're going to have a lot of value for not only me, but my audience as well here live and in the future. I mentioned the mergers and acquisitions. Should we just kind of start there, as that seems to be what you're primarily focused on, or is there other things that you'd like to start with?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, M&A stuff is what I've been doing now for the past couple of years. I've been a serial entrepreneur my entire life. All the way down to when I was a kid, man. I used to. I'll give you a great story. I don't know if you ever been on a cruise ship, but my family used to take me on cruises all the time. And when I was like 8 years old, my grandfather, they took me on a cruise, and they give you these little key cards, these little cruise key cards. Well, on that key card, it allows you to charge transactions so that you can actually buy things on the cruise ship. Well, me being 8 years old and having this entrepreneur in my blood, I had all these friends around me. They didn't have the key cards. They didn't have the cruise ship cards. Their parents didn't trust them enough to do that. So my grandparents, I guess they trusted me, whatever. And I ended up, taking the cash from the kids so that I can go and buy candy, and souvenirs and things like that for the friends that I was with, because they didn't have the card. So I'd go out and I'd swipe, and say I'd spend $20 and buy them a coffee mug or, a thing of Twizzlers. And then they would give me like $25 in cash, to offset basically for allowing me to use my card. And so I did this all cruise long. And I ended up, at the end of the cruise, then my grandfather got like a huge bill, it was like $500 or something. And I ended up pulling out, he was like, Josh, oh my goodness, like you spent $500. And I'm like, no, it's okay. No, Papa, I got the cash in my pocket. So I pull out this wad of cash and I show it to him. And I think I made like $100 or something. It was like $600. So I ended up making like $100. And like, that's when he told me, he's like, man, he was like, son, you are an entrepreneur. He was like, I can't believe what you just did. And so that was like my journey. That was the opening. That was the opening of my brain into the entrepreneur world. And I got started at a very, very young age.
That's amazing. I was gonna ask, as you were telling this, did they know ahead of time that this is what you were doing? But it sounds like no, this was a surprise.
Yeah, it was a surprise. They had no idea. And, but good thing is that, ended up making money, and I was able to pay him essentially, like I do today, with the banks and the lenders. I was able to pay him. He was my banker at the time. I paid him his 500 and I kept 100 in interest. So it worked out great.
That's amazing. Oh shoot, I had another question, but yeah, this is at 8 years old, so you got started really young. A lot of the people that I've heard, like, this wasn't me. I was not a serial entrepreneur from the get-go. I was actually pretty lazy when I was younger, but
Okay.
I hear a lot of people like started selling candy in high school or junior high and stuff like that. So you got started really young. What was kind of the next step for you? Did you keep going as you were aging, or did you take a break?
No, I did, man. I kept going, and I ended up getting into being a DJ. I had a disc jockey business that I ran for a long time after that, all through high school, pretty much through college as well. And then I really ramped it up right during college. I really ramped it up, and it became this full blown like wedding production company. Started out as a little, DJ, doing birthday parties and whatnot, and then really got into the wedding side, and that's really where the money was. And I started noticing a need there where I was DJing, I was emceeing, these weddings. But, I had a lot of these customers that would come to me and say, hey, do you know anybody that can offer photography? You know anybody that can offer videography? And again, the entrepreneur wheels start kicking in. And so I decided to hire, subcontract a videographer and a photographer. And I created packages. And so basically, a bride could come to me at that given time and say, hey, you got your entertainment set up, you have your videography set up, you got your photography set up, all in one vendor, one stop shop, and we were able to make a pretty penny off of it. And but I ended up selling that company. I sold it to one of my employees and his father, and I think that was my first 6-figure exit, and it was cool, man. It was I think I blew through all that money in probably like 6 months, and but you live and you learn, and back then I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but the good thing is that it set a great foundation for where I am today. And, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love the entrepreneur space. I'm a serial entrepreneur. My wheels are always turning, and you could probably hear the passion in my voice when I talk about this stuff.
Yeah. And when we were talking off camera before we went live, you mentioned I love talking about business and I love talking about making money. And like one thing I've learned as I've grown as an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor, is the more people you surround yourself that have that mindset, the better you're going to be off, right? We grow up not talking about money. It's like something that's a little taboo almost, but people that are wealthy and that are making a lot of money, like this is what they talk about. They talk about how we can go make more money and go do fun stuff together. And I love that you brushed over really quickly there, but as this DJ who was focused on weddings and birthdays and these things, these people were coming to you with a problem, and you were able to figure out a solution for that problem. As entrepreneurs, as business people, like we get paid based on the caliber of problems that we solve. And so you were able to bring this in-house and go, hey, look, this is a one-stop shop now. You don't have to talk to 3 different people. You can just talk to this one person and get it all done. And I know our wedding was 6 years ago now, but that's a big weight off of a bride's shoulders for sure, like having to take that stuff off of your plate. So how old were you when you made this exit?
Yeah, I was I think I was 18. I think I was like my 18th birthday, and had the exit, and wasn't at the time. That was a lot of money for me. And I didn't know. My parents, they were both they'd grown up. They were both W-2 employees their entire lives, and I don't even think they knew how to handle that much money at one time. So giving me the full reins. Being 18 to be able to manage that and deal with that. I think I blew it on bars and, and vacations and, just stupidity, So now looking back, I would have probably invested that, and it'd probably be a couple $1 million today if I just let that roll into buying a bunch of companies. But you live and you learn, and, it is what it is. And man, but not having that experience wouldn't allow me to be where I am today. So, having those experiences and being able, I say this all the time, experience builds confidence, right? So, the more you do something, the better you get at it, the more confident you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be able to speak about it. And I am very confident in what we do every single day. We have over 160 employees across 4 states. And, so we're definitely growing, and we're not stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I like that. You kind of mentioned there that you blew this 6 figures, from selling, but you would have, if you knew what you knew now, right? If you knew then what you know now, you would have invested it. But you know what? Maybe you wouldn't be where you are now if you hadn't learned that lesson of like.
I got a lot of those stories, man. I got a lot of those stories about. I'll give you one in particular, which is a great one. I love telling this story, but. I bought a company. I bought my first company in Orlando during COVID. A little small company. I would never buy that company today. Going back if I'd known what I know now, but that's all part of the process. I still have that company today, but it took a little while to ramp it up. But now it's doing great. It's high 6-7 figure year company and cash flow. And fantastic company. I bought it for $350,000. So where can you make a $350,000 investment and get high 6 to 7 figure a year in cash flow? It's just impossible.
Yeah.
And so I was in real estate, right? And so that's the reason why I got into M&A. That's the reason why I made the pivot and I made the switch, is because most real estate investors are equity rich and they're cash poor, right? You have all this equity, all this paper tied up, all this money tied up in your properties, and you can't access it unless you go to the bank to get a refinance or home equity, line of credit, or whatever it is, to pull out your equity of the property. So I was in that boat, right? Cash flow was tight, equity was high. So I sold some real estate, bought some companies, got my cash flow up. Now we have enough cash flow. Now I'm taking that money, I'm dumping it back into real estate, because at the end of the day, right, it's a full cycle, full circle. You use the businesses to create the cash flow, and you buy the real estate to store the cash. And so that's essentially what we're doing right now. And it's great. But let me get back to the story, because I'm digressing here.
Yeah.
So I bought this company I bought a company in Boston a year or two after I bought the Orlando company.
Okay.
And let me back up. I'm sorry. I bought Orlando first. That was my first acquisition. Then I was full of piss and vinegar. And I thought, man, I know what I'm doing. I can do this. I'm going to go out and acquire another company. So I went and bought another company about a year later in Miami, down in Miami in South Florida. Medical testing company. Lost $1 million on that company, on that acquisition. Okay. Mm-hmm. Most people are like, holy shit, you lost $1 million. I personally lost $1 million in cash. Lost it. And it was just, there's some issues with fraud and things like that. I didn't do my due diligence. I was enamored by the P&Ls. I was enamored by the numbers, and I didn't do my proper due diligence on the deal. So lesson nugget number one, when you're buying companies, due diligence at all costs. Ask every single question you could think of. Literally turn over every stone. Do whatever you got to do to make sure you're not buying a bad deal. So I bought that. So I lost that money. Back was up against the walls during Christmas. Actually a couple years ago, like right around this time, actually, we closed a couple weeks right before Christmas. Okay. And man, I was so excited to close on this deal. I raised $1 million from investors, and then it just went south, hell in a handbasket really fast. Literally the day we closed, we were doing like $10,000 a day in revenue. We were supposed to be doing. The day we closed, we did $500, and I knew something was really wrong. And wow. And so I had to basically shut everything down, regroup, spending $30,000 a month on attorney bills, bleeding, another $40,000 a month, because we have 4 different locations with this medical testing company that are all in operation, but not producing enough revenue. So I had no choice but to just shut it all down and call it a day. And wow. I had to sell off real estate to pay off my investors. Wow. None of my investors in that deal lost a single penny, not one. And I pride myself on that, because most people, I don't think, would have the balls or the guts to be able to figure out a way to pay back all their investors. So very proud of that moment, being able to pay that back. But on that note, I lost that money, and that was very, very humbling experience for me. That being said, my back was up against the wall, and another opportunity came about. And I had no choice but to buy this company that was presented to me. I had actually turned this company that was presented to me during this time. I had actually turned away a few years ago. They actually presented this company to me then, and I was like, nah, I'm not interested. I don't want to mess with that right now. But at this point in time, I had no other choice, man. I had no other choice but to either this was my sink or swim. I was going to die. I was going to bleed out if I didn't make this transition. So they offered me this company. This guy that I bought it from was kind of in the same boat. He was having financial issues. He had some flips that went bad, and he was using this company to live off of, and he was sucking every dollar out of it. I had just recently sold some real estate because I was paying off my investors. I had a little bit of cash left over that I needed to deploy so that I can rebuild my cash flow again so I can get out of this hole. So this guy was like, hey, $150,000, you assume my SBA loan and you can have this company. It's like, okay, fine, done deal. Gave him $150,000. I assumed his $1 million SBA loan. I put another $200,000 in a checking account for floating capital, and we were off to the races. And I made sure damn well that this company was going to, perform. Yeah. And sure enough, that company today, man, does well over 7 figures a year in net cash flow. Wow. And if I did not have that Miami moment, if I didn't have that South Florida issue, I would have never bought this Boston company today. Mm. So going back to what you were saying earlier, everything does happen for a reason. And I'm going to give you another kind of a cool, kind of serendipitous moment. when I bought the company, I went and met the owner in Boston, in Quincy, Massachusetts. Went up to the Bank of America up there, and we were transferring over the bank accounts. And I walked in, I put my hand out, and shook the guy's hand. I said, "Hey, man, how you doing? Josh Wilson. Very nice to meet you. Thank you so much." And he said, "Josh, man," he's like, "you are an angel." And I was like, "An angel? What do you mean?" He's like, "You are an angel, man." He was like, "If it weren't for you, I was going to lose my house." And I literally turned right back around to him and said, "Man, if it weren't for you, I was going to lose my house." And crazy how the universe aligns two people, man, to come together right at the right time, because he needed me and I needed him. And, it's just incredible how things work out. So like you said earlier about that moment back in the day with the, when I blew the six-figure, I think it was like $100,000, or I blew that. It all happens for a reason. There's a reason why. And, knowing what I know now about investing and being an entrepreneur, I wouldn't have been able to make the better decisions that I did coming up in my entrepreneur career. Probably if it weren't for that $100,000, just spending spree that I had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So.
It's when we're in the moment sometimes of difficulty or setbacks, it's difficult. It's hard to see the long game, right? We're just like, dang, I lost $1 million, or I blew that six figures, that I should have invested or whatever. But being able to go, no, this is not a one-time thing. This is a long game that I'm playing here. This isn't a zero-sum game. The objective is to keep playing the game, right? It allows us to keep going and pushing ahead. When you lost that $1 million, was there anything that you were able to lean back on? How did you push through that and go, this company is the right fit for me? This is where I'm supposed to be? Because I know that a lot of people that are listening, myself included, we face these setbacks, and it's very easy to just go, I'm just going to go work, at my old W-2. This isn't for me.
Right. I mean, look, I come from the cloth of no white flags. I wasn't going to let this beat me. Look, I'm not going to say that it was easy. When you're going through that, you're going through some mental challenges that, I probably have never faced before. Staring down that barrel of having to pay back $1 million was extremely tough. But, I know that another opportunity is usually around the corner, and I was able to capitalize on it. And a lot of times, I had a mentor, I had a mindset coach at the time, and thank God for him, Mike Kitko. He was a great mindset coach. Crazy enough, I met him prior to all this. And, when I was, back then, I didn't think I needed him. And then this happened, and I really did need him. And he was great to bounce off of at the time. And, he told me one day, he was like, Josh, he was like, we're all going to die. Like, at some point, we're all going to die. And you're going to die, and all the things you've built are going to be gone. And you're going to be forgotten in a couple of years, he's like, so why are you stressing about this? He's like, this is a deal. Deals fall apart. Deals go bad. They go south. Deals go up. They go down. He was like, this is just life. He's like, you just have to make sure that you're putting your head on the pillow every night, and you're knowing that you're doing the best you can do to make sure that you're going to try to protect your investors. And that's all you can do. And when he told me that, it gave me a sense of peace that I knew that I was doing everything I possibly could to try and save and salvage the deal, salvage the investor money. And we did, man. We ended up, like I said, we paid everybody back, and and then some, and it worked out well. But when you're going through those tough times, you just have to know that this too shall pass. And also, when you're going through good times, this too shall pass. I mean, just recently we had one of our companies, was going through a little bit of a rough patch, but the great thing about it is that I feel like, for me personally, I feel like I thrive in those environments. And there's probably people listening to this that probably feel the same way, where when they get into that zone of like where your back's against the wall, and you don't know what's coming around the corner, and and you're trying to get out of it, and you're trying to figure out different scenarios on how to handle a financial situation or whatever. That's where I thrive. I thrive being able to have that creative thinking and come up and troubleshoot. And we were just doing that with one of our companies the other day in Orlando. We were struggling. We were, our revenue dropped by like 30, 40%, overnight for some weird reason. And everybody's scratching their head up against the wall, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And but then, then it's like, okay, we sit down, we strategize, and we figure out how to solve it. And we jump into action. And I'm looking today. We looked at our board today, and we're back up again. So it's just and that's the good thing about it, is that like the bad days are you almost kind of need the bad days, right? Because it makes the good days so much more. You appreciate them so much more. And like today, right? That company's having a great day today, and it's good to be able to appreciate and know that, hey, we had a bad couple of days or a bad little run. It doesn't last forever. But the same thing goes for the good times. It doesn't last forever. So when you're in the moment, appreciate them, whether they're good or they're bad. You get to wake up today and enjoy it and live another life, and that's kind of where my mindset is now.
Yeah, I love that. That's that last bit is kind of the most important thing. We got breath in our lungs, right? We're able to live another day, look outside.
And look, Nathaniel, I've never, you talking to me like that now, you would have asked me that question 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have said, no, man, money's everything. I got to figure it out. I got to make more money. I got to buy more deals. Got to do more things. As I got older, I realized, and I got more freedom, I realized that, the money's great, but man, like who you spend your time with, waking up every morning, being able to do what I love is more, and then, my kids is more important to me than anything. And, that has really changed a lot. Now I'm able to travel more, I'm able to spend more time with my kids. Yeah. So
yeah, they're I think 18 and 15. You said.
Yep, I have an 18 and 15-year-old. They are older, and man, what a journey of fatherhood is. That's a whole other journey for another day. And yep.
Is it a boy, girl, boys, girls?
Yep, boy. I have a 18-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter.
Oh, very nice. Yeah,
getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, we just had this 8 weeks ago. We had our girl finally, 2 boys and a girl.
Nice.
And 3 under 4. It's mayhem.
I bet, man. I bet. I've been there.
Yeah, like you saw them just before we went live here. They were sitting in those 2 high chairs right there behind me, getting cleaned up. But awesome. You mentioned mergers and acquisitions. Can you just I'm super naive to this. What exactly does that look like? What does that mean?
Yeah, so essentially, in simplest form, it's business acquisitions. We acquire companies. We acquire companies that we feel fit our buy box. And our main end goal here is we want to buy companies that we can bundle up and roll up into a package that we can hope one day to sell to a private equity firm. So the goal is we have a holding company. It's called JW Global Enterprises, and that company owns all of our individual entities, all of our brands in JW. And so we're continuing to buy more companies that are like those companies, so that we could sell them off one day, at a higher multiple to an institutional investor versus like a mom and pop investor. Like somebody that's just gonna. Example would be difference would be like in real estate, right? Say for instance, you have a mom and pop landlord that's going to go buy a rental property versus Blackstone that's going to come in and buy 1,000 of them at one time.
Yeah,
we want to sell it. We want to sell it to the Wall Street guys. And I may get some hate for that, but it is what it is.
Yeah. What kind of businesses are maybe this isn't? Maybe there's not a specific, but are there specific businesses that you're looking for that you like to acquire? I know people are like, I love laundromats, that type of thing.
I hate laundromats.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I'll tell you the ones I don't like. I don't like laundromats. I don't like restaurants. I don't like franchises. I don't like Amazon stores. None of that is in my wheelhouse. And it's just because there's a bunch of different things, right? With restaurants, very, very low margins, high turnover, in the industry, you constantly have management issues, you got people stealing from you. There's a bunch of bullshit. And then you have, and I've owned a restaurant, so, and I speak from experience. So, second to that, laundromats, again, kind of low margins, you have to be actively managing it. Usually not enough cash flow in there to hire a proper manager. You got theft issues, unless you put in all credit card machines, just really not my thing. Car washes, same thing. Don't like those. High maintenance. There's a lot of maintenance on those, or maintenance hogs. People think like, oh, car washes, it's automatic. I'd love to own a car wash. You see all these cars going in and out every day. Yeah, it's true. But if you buy it brand new, then yeah, you have some warranty on your things and you'll be good for the first couple of years. But after that, you better sell that bad boy because it's going to be a maintenance hog. Amazon businesses, same thing. You're in control. I mean, Amazon's got you by the balls. They're controlling you. So you really don't want to, I don't want to have somebody else controlling my business. So that's why I'm not into the Amazon stores. Same thing like FedEx routes. FedEx is like one customer constant. And the reason why I'm telling you all these is because I used to look at all these businesses when I first got started. So I'm hoping I can help your listeners not make the same mistakes and going down those rabbit holes. But FedEx routes, same thing. FedEx is one customer. So they have you, by the throat. So if you do something wrong they don't like, they can just essentially fire you and take you off of the routes, and then you're done. You have no revenue. So I don't want to ever have the customer concentration to be one customer. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the businesses that I don't like and that I will not buy. And those are the reasons why I don't do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard a lot of people say, I mean, maybe not a lot of people, but I've heard people say like, oh, laundromats are a great investment. You just buy the stuff and people come in and give you money. Like, for the reasons that you mentioned, it makes sense why that's not the greatest. I could definitely see.
I mean, you have those things, machines break, you're going to have, machines break. You're going to have, management issues because you don't have enough cash flow to properly hire the right person. You want to buy. So like we want to buy companies. Like I buy companies now that unless they're doing over 900,000 a year in cash flow, I'm really not interested in the company. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is you want to be able to acquire a company that's got a full management team. You want to have a company that's got some room in there. So if you lose a customer, revenue drops, it's not going to bankrupt you. It's not going to ruin it's not going to ruin the company. You're going to be able to give yourself some runway and some time to rebuild and regroup and get back up to where you once were. Versus, let's say, for instance, you buy a laundromat, right? And then all of a sudden half your machines go down. Well, I mean, if you're running such tight margins and your profit is like, let's say you're running a 10 machine laundromat and your profit is 4 machines, you're down 2 machines. You just cut your profit in half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're down 4 machines, you're at 0, So, or like say, for instance, your machine, say if it's 2, your profit is 2 machines every month and the 8 pays for the expenses. You go down a machine, you're done, man. Like you're done. You're without a paycheck. And now you're working for free. So who wants to buy a job? Nobody wants to buy a job. And so that's the reason why, we don't invest in those companies.
What is is there something that you're like really excited about? I know you mentioned the 900,000. Is that like kind of just the criteria, or they're like,
Yeah, it's more of like so I've done a deal, a $350,000 deal, and I've done a $3.5 million deal. They're both the same deal. The only difference is the numbers. And it's the same amount of work. And people are like, well, Josh, you have to put up, let's say, for instance, if you go SBA requires you to put 10% down. So, if you go SBA, you only have to put up $35,000 versus $350,000. True. But yes, I can go probably raise $35,000 in 4 seconds. But I can go raise $350,000 probably in a couple of days. And it's going to pay me back 10 times what it's going to pay me back on a $350,000 deal. So would you rather work a little bit more to get that down payment and push that deal through? Because that's really, at the end of the day, that's the issue is the down payment part. It's not so much the legwork of the actual company. That legwork on a 350 and a 3.5 million is the exact same thing. It's the exact same legwork. The only difference is the capital raise on the front end for the down payment. And that's it. That's the only difference. So I'd rather just put a little extra effort in and raise that money and have 7 figures coming in versus barely making 6.
Yeah. It seems like there's maybe a little bit of a mindset thing too, wrapping your head around just a 10x number.
100% there's a mindset issue. I had it. I used to be that mindset. I used to be in my head about it all the time, So there definitely is a mindset issue, but you can overcome that. You can overcome that with again, experience builds confidence. Continue to do the deals, continue to talk to brokers, continue to get yourself more comfortable with doing a deal, envision yourself doing a deal, and then actually start taking the action steps to doing it. Calling brokers, meeting with an M&A, attorney, talking to an SBA lender to get pre-qualified for an SBA loan. Find out what they're requiring, what they want, what they're looking for in certain deals. What's their margins like? What are they looking like for typical margins on companies? Like, these are a lot of good questions to ask, and they will give you these answers. And the more questions you ask, the more lingo you're going to learn, the more confident you're going to feel, and the better you're going to feel about talking to these folks. And now, like, I don't blink an eye, because I've gone through it. I made myself sound silly at times, and I learned the proper language. I learned the proper lingo, and then you do it enough, and it becomes like second nature.
That's one thing that the sounding silly that comes up time and time again. I'm primarily focused in the real estate space, and people, getting started making phone calls either to agents or to sellers, especially to agents, I think, because they see the agent as somebody who's like a little bit above them as far as like authority goes. And like, I don't want to sound silly on the phone, so it keeps people from getting started. But it sounds like from you just like being comfortable going, I'm going to sound silly. That's how I'm going to grow. That's how you get. That's how you can get over that hurdle of getting started.
Absolutely, that's what's going to happen. And you're going to sound silly. You're going to sound in your voice. Your little inner voice is going to tell you don't know what you're doing, which you're probably right. You don't know what you're doing. But if you go in and you ask questions, and you don't actually have to know all the answers. Like, I'm not telling you to go and pretend like you're a big shot, because you're not. You need to go in and act like you don't know the answers, and you're learning, and you want to do a deal, and you have questions about this specific deal. And this is your first deal. Hey, I'm buying my first deal. I'm interested. I want to know if I can get an NDA so I can sign that, so I can see the sim. You know what I mean? Like, these are things, like, this is the language and the lingo that you learn over time. And sometimes the brokers will educate you. They'll say, oh, well, first you need to sign an NDA, and then I'll give you access to the file and the data room and all that. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to write that down. So I sign the NDA first, and then I get access to the file and data room. Okay, great. Then I go through there, pour through the financials, and then you go through due diligence, and then you submit an LOI, and you're going to learn all these things as you go along. But if you never take the steps, and you're always constantly in fear about how you're going to be perceived, then you will never, ever, ever in your life do a deal or ever take a risk.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned too there, you just like brush over these things because it's so natural to you now. But hey, I'm buying my first deal, or like, it's okay to say that and just call out the elephant in the room, right? Like, hey, this is my first conversation with the broker. I'm afraid of sounding silly to you, Mr. or Mrs. Josh, right? I don't know, Mrs. Josh, but yeah, whatever. Is that, you mentioned the broker a couple of times there, is that where you're finding most or all of your?
When you're buying your first deal, yes, you're going to probably be engaging with a broker,
Okay.
So, so when you're doing your first deal, you're going to be with a broker. It's the nature of the beast. The likelihood of you getting an off-market deal at that point in time is going to be unlikely, because the brokers don't know you. They don't have the confidence in you to close. Really, at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing, right? Is that, yes, you're going to tell the broker, this is my first deal. And there's some of them that will help you if they feel like, if you have the financial capacity to do so. And then that they feel like you are not going to waste their time. So don't waste their time. If you are serious about it and you're going to do a deal, make sure you got your ducks in a row, your credit's in good shape, you're lendable, you have cash, you have investors, whatever it is. You need to be able to get those things in shape first before you go out there and start trying to shake some trees down to see, what kind of deals can go your way.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good.
Most people don't. There's a lot of people that are like, look, there's a lot of bullshit on the internet, man, about getting rich quick and buying buying stuff with no money down and all these things, all these quick gimmicks.
Yeah.
Look, success does not come cheap, and success does not come quick. Yep. That is one lesson I've learned. You got to pay to play, and it takes time to build successful companies and successful portfolios. It's not something that happens overnight. Our companies we built, it's taken me years. I've been doing this game now for almost 20 years. So I've been at it hard for 20 years. I probably let off the gas maybe a little bit the past year, but that's about it. I'm going through some personal things, with family, but other than that, that's it. That's the only reason why. So if you are out there and you're listening and you're thinking that it's going to be quick, you got a rude awakening coming. You need to make sure that you are prepared for battle, because business and entrepreneurship, it's a war, man. It's a war every single day, and it's like a chess game. And you have people that are trying to take down your empire, and you got to make sure you're protecting your castle at all costs.
I love that. You mentioned the pay to play, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but sometimes we pay with our time and our effort, right? It doesn't have to be money pay, right? You have to pay with your energy and the actions that you're inputting every day, because it may take you 3, 6, 12, 36 months to actually realize the fruition. And if you're not willing to pay that price every single day, consistently putting in those actions, like you might as well not start.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Let's say, for instance, you're at a W-2 right now, right? And you're like, man, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to go start my own company. Or first off, you don't want to start your own company. Number one, that's rule number one. Startups are for suckers. You don't want to do that. I learned that from a mentor of mine, Kyle Mallion, and he is so right. But number two, you need to make sure that you're ready to put in 80-hour weeks. You need to make sure you're ready to grind it out, because entrepreneurship, man, look, you got to be a leader. Like when you're staring down the barrel of, let's say, for instance, for me, right, our payroll for all of our companies on any given week is probably $100,000. And that's a lot. That's a lot of money. Yeah. $100,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. And so, you got to be prepared to, lead that ship, to make sure that you are protecting the lives of those families that you're providing for, and you are making key decisions. I'll give you an example. I remember my COO like last year. I'm going through a divorce, and last year, I was early on in that divorce, and I was making some very dumb decisions. During that time. And I remember she pulled me aside and she said, Josh, you are the leader of our companies, and you cannot act that way. And, it was a wake up call for me. She was like, you have 160 families that are relying on you, and you cannot act that way. You cannot, be perceived in that way. And, it wasn't anything bad. It was just perception, right? Because you're a leader. And I never looked at myself in that capacity. I always looked at myself as the entrepreneur, right? But when you start leading companies, you're the front runner. I mean, you're the one holding the flag, sending everyone into battle, and you're going right there with them. And so you got to be prepared to be a leader. That's one thing also I'll say. And not everybody is meant to be a leader. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. So it takes a very special kind of person to want to do that and be in that game. And I've seen some folks that say they want to get into business acquisitions, and then they're afraid to talk to 10 people in front of the room. I mean, it's going to be impossible. You're never going to be able to lead a team if you can't speak and you can't lead. So, just think about those things, right? You really have to have a talk within yourself and your mindset, and say, am I cut out for this? Am I going to be able to do this? And more importantly, do I want to do this? Does it make you feel alive? Does it make you feel like you want to get up every morning and go crush the day and just get out there and go out of battle, I'm seeing these comments where I got thrown off.
Oh, yeah.
Flash up.
Yeah. I didn't do the best job early on of that. I know I want to be respectful of your time. I know we got a hard cutoff here in like 5 or 6 minutes. So I'd like to ask everybody that comes on the show if they have like 1 to 3 book recommendations, books that have influenced you as an entrepreneur, as a business person, maybe from a mindset perspective, from a leadership perspective. What comes to mind there?
Yeah, man. Look, I'm a huge Cardone fan. His 10X Rule book really changed my life and the way I think and the bigger picture that I think. I feel like after reading that book, there's no deal that I can't do. I think that was a game changer for me, because I had a limited mindset for majority of my life, thinking that I was, stuck in doing, smaller deals and things like that. And that really changed the game for me, and just thinking bigger and making my goals a lot bigger, and my dreams and aspirations way bigger. And, just being able to do more. Like, you could do anything you want to do. Like,
Mm.
it's just your little ticker in here saying, no, 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 you can't, because we haven't done it before. So it's
Right.
foreign to us in our body, in our mind. And that's all it is, though. It's just a thought. So if you remember that it's just a thought, you can do whatever you set your mind to. You can come up with creative ways to make more money. You can most certainly, anybody that's listening here today can buy a business if they really want to. And just don't let your little brain stop you.
Right. Yeah. It's what is it? Ah, the mind is a no. Forget it. I had something there, but it disappeared. Before we part ways, my last question for you is
Yeah.
one that I like to ask all the guests that come on Networking with Nathaniel. It's a little deep, but once your time is done on this earth, you've gone to wherever, whatever it is you believe, heaven or otherwise. What do you want to be remembered for from the people that you've left behind here?
Yeah, man, it's a very thought-provoking question. I think for me, it's, you know, every day I try to motivate people, right? And I thought about this. I've been thinking about this over the past year about what my purpose is. Like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here? Like, what is my whole reasoning for being here? And the one thing that I always go back to, and I ask God this, I pray and I ask God, what do you want me to do? Like, tell me, show me, what do you want me to do? Give me a sign. And it always goes, I feel like it always goes back to, I want you to keep inspiring and motivating people to do more and to do better. And, we have 160 employees, and nothing lights me up more than getting in front of a room of those guys and gals, and leading them and inspiring them to crush their dreams, to take a chance, take a risk, and seeing them do well and being able to provide for them, being able to make them feel safe and secure in the place that they work, in the place that they're relying on to support their family. Those are the things that really motivate me and get me going. And then also too, what I would want to be remembered for is that Josh was an inspiration, in my life, and he made me better, for him being in it, So yeah.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you being here. I know at least a couple people in the chat have gotten some inspiration out of you and out of some of the stuff that you've said here. If anybody wanted to connect with you for one reason or another, where should they go to find you?
Yeah, look, just easy on social media at The Real Josh Wilson, and I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. So hit me up there. I got all my links in there. So hit me up there, and let's connect.
Yeah, I will. The links will be in the description for those, so you can easily just click on them and find him. I appreciate you being here. Best of luck in your meeting that you're about to go hop into.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.
You too. Later, brother. Well, that was Josh Wilson. I know he mentioned a few times there, especially towards the end, the power of leadership and what it does for him and his business and all the people that he is leading. He mentioned 160 people. As entrepreneurs, we tend to get started in our journey solo, right? And it only will take us so far. It's up to us to become the leader that we need to become in order to grow to where we want to take ourselves, take our business, and take those around us, right? We have to be able to inspire people, to move them, for them to be able to run through walls, for them to want to run through walls for us, right? And how do we do that? Well, we do that by finding out what their goals and their aspirations are, right? What do they want to do? What do they want to accomplish in life? And how does what we're doing and where we're heading fit into that plan? I like to think of it as an umbrella. Like, our goals are this. We have to have huge umbrellas as entrepreneurs, huge goals and aspirations. That way other people's goals and aspirations can fit under that umbrella and we can all grow together. So as leaders, we have to focus on these traits that we can get to move people along, to inspire them to wake up every morning and run through freaking brick walls for us and our companies and for themselves, right? He mentioned he has 160 families like that. It's tough for some of us to think about and contemplate that. That might be a weight that's just crushing us every day. But when we think about from when we switch the perspective on being a leader as like, I get to go help those families thrive every day because I know how I'm going to show up every single day. I know the actions that I'm going to put in place every single day. I would much rather have those 160 families relying on me and my actions than some stranger on the street who I don't know and trust that may not get up and just crush those dreams like Yolanda said every single day. So with that, we're going to end a little short today. Josh had to hop off. He had a merger and acquisition to go take care of. And what are a few books I would recommend for leadership? Ooh, Yolanda, putting me on the spot here. I don't know the exact name of it, but it's Ben Hardy. It's like Be Your Future Self Now, I think is a really great one. Um, I it is a leadership-ish book. It's more of a mindset book, but oh, it just slipped my mind. Yolanda, I might have to get back to you with this. But 10x is easier than 2x is great. I think that lazy great CEOs are lazy is a great one because it flips the way we look at how we plan and time block our days. I really want this one from the mindset perspective. It's another Ben Hardy one about the way we think about setbacks and being grateful for. Ooh, it's right there on the gap in the gain. Thank you from the peanut gallery back there, Brittany. The gap in the gain. It switches the way the way we're looking at our goals and where we're at compared to our goals from where we're at compared to where we've been. I know it's not totally a leadership. It's leadership adjacent. I think being able to take setbacks and take things in stride and inspire your team to go, hey, look, we're not where we're going yet, but look at where we've come from, and being able to bring them up for that. So I hope that that's kind of helpful for you, Yolanda. I hope to see you tomorrow in Helping Hands Hour, because it's been a couple weeks since we've chatted. For all of those of you out there that are not aware, I have a weekly Zoom every Thursday at noon Eastern time called Helping Hands Hour. It's just designed to get you unstuck, get you to where you're going, talk things through with somebody who's been through what you're going through before, or if I haven't, I know people who have. So with that, we're going to part ways for Helping Hands Hour. Those of you who are here live, if you have not done so yet, please click the like button on there. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel so you get notifications exactly when we go live. If you're watching this in the future, hey, do exactly the same. I would love to see in the comments one thing you took away from Josh Wilson today and one thing that you're going to implement from what he talked about today. Until next week, peace.